Well, it's a good thing I didn't say anything compromising. I don't see Daryl on there.
Oh, so I just got a text from Daryl and he says it's on YouTube and not working. Did you see the email from Andrea? Does he need the Zoom link maybe?
Yeah, it was emailed, but I can send it again.
Okay, I'll let him know. Technology is great when it works.
With your admins. Are you talking about the Zoom?
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Wondering.
Tell him I will forward it to him right now.
Okie doke.
Emailed, but I can send it again.
Okay, let him know. Technology is great when it works.
With your admins. Are you talking about the Zoom?
Huh?
Mm-hmm. Okay, perfect. I just sent Daryl the Zoom link, Dr. Kennedy.
Okay.
Should have it directly from me. Tell him I will forward it to him right now.
Okie doke.
Emailed, but I can send it again.
Okay, let him know. Technology there's a weird feedback loop going on.
Are you talking about the Zoom?
Huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like we're repeating ourselves 2 or 3 times.
The Zoom link, Dr. Kennedy.
Okay.
I just want to go back to normal.
Andrea?
Are we?
There you go.
Oh, there's Daryl.
There I am. Sorry, guys.
Okay, we're having all sorts of fun here today. Okay, we're live on YouTube. We've got everybody. They're on somewhere in the room, so thank you to everyone for their patience. Major shout out to Tom and Kevin today for getting us set up. Good. For getting us set up so that we could roll live with YouTube. I'll give a little further explanation of the transition from Facebook to YouTube later in the meeting, but I want to turn it over to our administration. Thank them for taking time to be here with us today. And Dr. Kennedy, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you all. So I do have some prepared remarks and I'll run through those, but thank you again to everybody for the opportunity to report to the association. I had a very good meeting earlier this week with the Staff Association Board. We had lots of good conversation and lots of good ideas, so I appreciate that. But let me share some of the highlights I've prepared and then we can go from there. So if we start with our fall semester, right? First of all, I just want to express my gratitude to everybody. I am happy to report that we are nearing the end of week 9, which is more than halfway through. In fact, we're almost, as of next week, we'll be 2/3 of the way through. But I wanted to take a moment to recognize every member of our staff who worked so hard and has been working so hard and continues to work so hard to help us create the safe and healthy and educationally relevant and vital environment that we have. I know it hasn't been easy. I know it hasn't always been perfect, but we've learned and adapted and we continue to learn. And I want you to know, please know that your efforts are recognized and that I, along with my cabinet, we want to be sure that that you all know that you're appreciated. Also, before we get too far away from it, I wanted to thank everybody for commencement that we did back in September. That was a fabulous success and it was a wonderful ceremony. And I was so proud of how we demonstrated we could execute a plan to have an event like that for our graduates and their families and to recognize our faculty and staff and everybody. And also thank you to everybody who just a week ago helped with the governor's visit when we did the ribbon cutting ceremony for our Center for Excellence in Allied Health Learning. I got such good feedback from so many different folks about that event. So just please know I'm regularly awed and grateful for the level of commitment our campus community demonstrates. So with all of those thanks in mind, I thought it might be an appropriate time just to kind of acknowledge some of the conversations and the rumblings I've heard about morale. You know, there's not a lot we can do financially as a university, but I am looking for things that I can do for staff as well as faculty and everyone else. So let's talk about fall break, okay? Our fall break, if we go back to when we were planning the fall semester, was the plan was to end classes on Tuesday, the 24th, and classes, I mean classes and finals and all of those good things. And then that Wednesday, if you recall, we were scheduled to do our winter commencement. And then the break would start Thursday and we'd roll over into the next week with a couple of extra days through then. Well, as a way of providing recognition for your hard work, to say, here's something I can do, I consulted with the provost and with our CFO just to make sure we didn't have commitments that I had to worry about. We didn't have to worry about residence halls or Airmark. So what I've been able to do is give the Wednesday before Thanksgiving as an extra holiday. So I know faculty will probably be gone and the students will definitely be gone, but for staff, what that means is that the fall break will actually start that Wednesday, the 25th, and then roll through December 2nd. So everybody would come back to work on the 3rd. So I know it's not a lot, but it's a way that I can give to you and say, thank you so much. I really appreciate the extra efforts. It's just a simple thing that I can do. So hopefully that will be something that you can benefit from. And you know, take it for the gracious appreciation that it's meant to be. So we've got that squared away. Speaking of fall semester, I want to give you just a little bit of an update about our enrollment because we did cross our census finish line at the end of September rather. And as you know, we've been talking about this. Our enrollment is down, headcount at about 9.8%. Our student credit hours about 2.2. Residence hall occupancy has been down a little bit less than we projected. But there are some points I want to mention, some silver linings. So for example, enrollment's not down as bad as we had predicted. In fact, we've actually been up in business, nursing, and education. And I also want to mention our early college academy. You know, despite what has been an equally difficult year for our local secondary ed partners, our enrollment has been strong. We have over 1,100 high school students that are taking at least one of our classes this fall. So I think that's encouraging because that is also a very good revenue stream for us, particularly if you look at the opportunities that we've started to engage in for matriculation, bringing those students to our school. So I think those are good. But the point I wanted to make in bringing up the fall semester is, you know, given where we are with our enrollment, particularly with our freshman class being down about 27%, recruitment and retention are essential, not only for our ability to survive, but for us to be able to thrive. And when I look back at the efforts that folks engaged in last spring and last summer, where we came together to call students who weren't enrolled, we talked to them about their bills, setting up payment plans, doing walk-in registrations. We're going to need to commit to engaging in those activities once again. So I'm going to have to ask your help to help when you can, when you're called on to participate in those events. So that's the fall semester, which kind of walks us then into the spring semester. And, you know, as of today at 3:13 on Wednesday, thus far, our plan is to open the semester just as we had originally scheduled. We'll be starting then on that Tuesday, which is, I believe it's 19th, right after the Martin Luther King holiday. Now, one slight adjustment that we've done thus far is to say, the spring semester, we're going to start it off planning for classes pretty much like we've done, maybe shifting to more face-to-face when possible, but there's a lot of factors that come into play for those decisions just yet. But one of the things we've decided to do is to shift spring break back. So for a couple of reasons. We're going to move it to week 10 of the semester, which gives us a little bit more time to pivot. And I'm thinking COVID-related pivot if we need to. And so we'll be moving it to March 22nd through the 26th. And there's also a secondary benefit for some folks that may be helpful. This week does coincide with the St. Joseph School District spring break. So I happened to speak to the superintendent, and he assured me that that's when they were going to do it. Now, that again, that won't benefit everybody. And unfortunately, the other high schools in the area like Savannah and Gower and the parochial schools have their own schedule. But I know when I was teaching in the classroom and my son was in school, out of the 12 years he went to secondary education, we had one coinciding spring break. So maybe some folks this will be helpful too, but I think for us, more critically, it does give us a little bit extra window if we have to pivot and do something to collapse the semester, we'd have that week. But I personally don't want to give up spring break, and I want to try to keep our start as normal as possible. And hopefully, with conversations about the vaccine and those kinds of things, we'll be more into normal, but that remains to be seen. And then to wrap up the fall semester and the spring semester conversation, one of the more essential searches that we are closing in on is our search for our Vice President of Enrollment Management. We've had the 3 finalists on campus, and thank you to those who've participated, either attending the Zoom presentations, providing feedback to Betsy. I think you have through end of business day to provide that to her. But the reason this position is so critical is because enrollment is how we generate our revenue, and that's what keeps us going. So we're working on that. Other thing I wanted to report on, I thought might be of interest to the association, has to do with the community outreach I've been engaged in. I've been working to build and develop our relationships with the community and to better promote our university. One of the things that we've been able to do is to bring back on a part-time basis Steve Johnston, who served Missouri Western as the external relations director. He's started back September 1st, and I can tell you he has kept me extremely busy. Just to give you perspective, between September 1st and September 20th, we had over 25 appointments in the first 20 days. I've met with all the key legislators, the senators, representatives, the mayor, the city manager, the county commissioners, Mosaic Foundation. I've been able to re-engage the university with the chamber, the community alliance. I've had the opportunity to brag and spread the good word about Missouri Western to the St. Joseph Kiwanis, the Eastside Rotary, United Way leadership. I have Zoomed with the St. Joseph School District high school counselors. We had a very productive conversation there because the goal is to make Missouri Western the first choice for students when they're graduating high school. I've also been working with the St. Joseph Legislative Partnership, which includes the chamber, the city, and then the Buchanan County folks. We've been working with our lobbyists to promote the priorities and plans for the next upcoming legislative session, which will be crucial for our budgets. Steve and I are going to Jeff City post the November 3rd election to meet with more folks and to work with our lobbyists and state legislators to promote Missouri Western. As far as the budget, I know Daryl's on and he'll talk a little bit more about that, but you might have heard that the governor, true to his word when he was here for the ribbon cutting ceremony, announced that he's going to be releasing approximately $14 million in core appropriation funding to all the public four-year institutions. In other words, releasing some of the fiscal year withhold. Now, as you might imagine, the governor announces something and it takes a while to filter down to the details and how that's going to work out. But this restoration will definitely help us fill the hole, that $4 million deficit hole that we have and are facing this fiscal year. So it's very good news for us. Very, very good news. Some other things I thought I'd give you a quick update on COVID-19 and our response teams. We have 2 teams that are functioning. We have a larger team, which is campus-wide. And then we have a smaller kind of data analytic team. Very thankful to everybody's efforts related to our managing our protocols and our practices for the COVID response, working with our contact tracers and doing the tracing. We've got our dashboard up and running and have been working very closely with university marketing and communications. We've rearranged the dashboard or the website a little bit to put our dashboard more front and center. And we have a new piece in there in terms of our triggers and decision-making process. It was one of the last pieces that we had to work out that wasn't completed with previous administration, but if you go to the website now, you can read more about how we're making those, if we face that situation, which thankfully we're not. But if we do get into that situation where we have more positive cases, we start to run out of capacity for quarantine, if the hospitalization in our area becomes critical.
I know she says she's got Wi-Fi connectivity issues at home sometimes. Dr. Kennedy, if you can hear us, you are frozen on our end.
Am I?
Oh, there, now you're back.
Hi. Well, I don't know where I stopped, so
We just missed like the last 15 seconds.
okay. Well, I was talking about the COVID, and I guess I'll just pick up. I'll invite you to look at the website, look at the dashboard, the new updates there. But we are working with the Missouri Department of Higher Education and Workforce Development through the governor's office. The state is going to be getting some amount of vaccines when those are available, and some amount of some antigen testing. Now, if you look at the antigen testing, it would be used for faculty and staff. It would be used for symptomatic individuals only. And we would get a percentage of tests sent to us based upon our population that we have on campus. So if you figure we have this semester, give or take 4,500 individuals, which is students, faculty, and staff on campus, looking at what percentage of the tests we might get. And I wish I could be more specific, and I wish I could tell you more about that. But Zora Mulligan, the commissioner, has been working to finalize those details. It's a little questionable if we would even have that kind of testing available prior to the end of our semester, before we went on break, but I will keep you posted. I just wanted to mention it just to let you know that testing may be coming to campus. It's free to the universities. It's just they're trying to figure out which test, who's going to get it, how are we going to deliver it, and those kinds of things. And that also is true of the vaccine, which of course we don't have yet. But let's say a vaccine becomes available, then that would be available to our campus for faculty and staff. And again, it's who would get it, how we would deliver it, how it would be administered, those kinds of things. But, and it would be voluntary vaccine, just so you know. But I wanted to mention that because, I participate in weekly conversations with Zora Mulligan and the Department of Higher Ed, and I have biweekly conversations with the city and the mayor and Mosaic and the health department, and learning about COVID and reading about COVID is, it's one of the things I do in my quote spare time. For a psychologist, I know a lot about COVID, but it's just a situation that's constantly evolving. And so we're staying on top of it, which is why we have the 2 COVID response teams. We're doing our best, trying to keep on track and stay healthy and safe. So just updating you on that and trying to share some information with you. A couple other things I just wanted to mention. I guess I thought about the strategic initiatives. I think if you remember, I was tasked by the Board of Governors to keep the strategic initiatives of the past academic year moving forward. So we're going to be doing that, monitoring our progress and success. I don't know if you heard this morning, but Gary Clapp was on the Barry Burr Show talking about the Center for Service, and Gary serving as the director. One of the cool things that we've just done with the center is we've made it virtual. So Gary has the orientation that students would have to engage in online through Canvas as a class. And we've recently worked to procure an app through VOMO, V-O-M-O, which actually is an app that students can use to track their hours, log in and enter their information about what opportunities they're interested in, what partnerships they're going to, and then also to work with our partners so that they are able to connect and see where our students are and those kinds of things. Gold Fridays, one of the things I've been doing the last few Fridays is I've been doing walkarounds on campus. generally accompanied by the president of the faculty senate, just going into buildings, meeting people, seeing what students are doing, having those kinds of conversations. But what I want to do, what I've charged folks to do now is to look at what are we doing with our Gold Fridays. Let's establish that calendar of events. And then think about some unique opportunities that we can do in this COVID environment for our students to engage in applied learning that would be only available as a Gold Friday opportunity. So those are some of the things that we're doing. I've been talking for a long time. I think that's about all that I wanted to talk to you about, where other strategic initiatives are moving forward. And I guess, Andrea, if you have questions for me, I'm happy to take a few, but I think that's about what I can report at this time.
Wonderful. Does anybody have any questions for Dr. Kennedy before we turn it over to Dr. Davenport? Anybody on Zoom have questions for Dr. Kennedy? Thank you so much for that update. That was a lot of information, but we are very, very appreciative to be in the know and aware of a lot going on. So thank you for all of
It's my pleasure. I really appreciate the opportunity to meet with the staff and to meet with the board, and because communication has to be a give and take, right? And I like giving my reports, but I also like being available for the conversations that we can have. And if this, everybody knows where my office is. You're more than welcome to stop by and say hello if there's something I can do. But again, I so appreciate everybody's efforts. To say these are unusual times is an understatement, and I know it's very stressful, and I know there's a lot of things going on. So please stay in touch, and if there's anything else I can do, let me know.
Thank you. Yeah. Go ahead.
Dr. Kennedy, can you hear me?
I can. I don't know who's talking, but I can hear you.
It's Evan. You were
Oh,
talking
okay. Hi.
about the community partners that you'd been speaking to.
Yes.
Did anybody in the area come forward with any type of ideas or programs or anything that they wanted to partner with us to do, or is it more of just establishing a baseline connection with those people?
It's kind of a little bit of both. So, we have kind of the standard partners you'd think about, right? Like Mosaic and Second Harvest and those kinds of things. But so, for example, when, and I can't remember the name of the organization, forgive me, but when they had the program to deliver shoes to the school kids beginning of the semester, that was a pop-up program. I think the more we can advertise the Center for Service and the more we can get out there and talk about what we can do for our students, the more opportunities will kind of gel. One of the things I would like to mention is, we're looking at ways to expand use of the app, for example, because we have a lot of staff and a lot of faculty folks that do volunteering. And I think it's a wonderful statement for the university to be able to track what the university community is doing and how we're connecting with our partners and how we're, kind of giving back. So I'm hoping to expand this rather than just be a focus on students earning college credit, because I think it really does say a lot about who Missouri Western is, that we're embedded in the community. So I think, I guess to your question, Evan, it's maybe a little bit more. But I would also say if there's ideas, Dr. Clapp is an excellent person to have conversations with. And, if you have ideas, shoot those over to him and just see what can be developed.
Okay, thank you.
Marketing, PR and marketing.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch all that.
If there was updates on the replacement for Jomel Nichols' position with PR and marketing.
Yes.
Enrollment management, I was just curious about that role.
Yes. So we went through a search. We advertised for a chief communications officer, which is what Jomel's position had been elevated to. We brought some candidates on campus, and ultimately the decision rests with me. And I was not, I didn't want to settle for someone I didn't think would be a good fit or was right for the job. So I met with Josh Looney because he was chairing that search. We had some more conversations, and, I had met with the folks in university marketing and communications, and I it was a really great meeting for me because I got to see the pieces to what that unit looks like. And there's such talent there. And we have the different people with their different skill sets, so they really gel as a unit. And then learning about the fact that this hadn't always been a cabinet position, that it had been, had been in another unit, just kind of getting a history of what that department had looked like. One of the things we decided to do was to kind of bring it back to a director position, have it report to the president's office, but work on some of those details. And so we're now re-advertising what that position is looking like. I think the posting has been up maybe a week. We have 5 or 6 applicants thus far. So we're looking to work on it. And I do have to say that, Kent Heyer has stepped up, and I know all the folks over there have really stepped up to step into the roles and do more without Jamel. I realize, that's a hole that we have, but my philosophy is I want to get the right person, not just a person. And that's why we're going to step back and redo the search and get the person that we're looking for that will be a good fit for us.
Thank you for that update.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else have questions? Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Kennedy. We'll turn it over to you, Dr. Davenport.
All right. Well, one of the nice things about following Dr. Kennedy is she talks about a number of the things that are also on my list. So this is really helpful. So you don't have to listen to me nearly as long. At least we'll see about that. That's the plan. I do want to also echo her thanks to everyone for the work on our commencement exercises. Those 2 events went off as well as any we've had and as well as could be hoped for. So, and it took a ton of people dedicating their time. So as I was coming into the event, wondering how it's going, and I looked around and I was just very pleased with what I saw. The experience for our students and their parents and family members and others was just wonderful. And that is a huge testament to the dedication of many of our folks. I know Jessica in my office and Susan Braciano both had lots of sleepless nights before that event came off, because there's so many unknowns. You're doing something completely differently, and every detail has to be thought out in advance. You can't just say, well, this is the way it works, because it may not in this case. So thanks to everyone for doing that. Again, I also want to echo the thanks, the Simlab ribbon cutting, which was a wonderful event. Clearly, it brought a number of leaders on our campus and showcased a project that was the first of the MOXL's projects across the state to be completed, not only completed, but also completed on time and under budget. So that was one reason why the governor really was interested in getting here to help to showcase that. And I point to the fact that everyone who worked on that project under the leadership of Crystal Harris and others across the School of Nursing and Health Professions, physical plant, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It was a team effort. And again, those kinds of things go unnoticed, except for those who are paying attention. And I just want to send a shout out to everyone who helped to make that event and the reason for them coming a success. I wanted to also just tag on with the idea of the Center for Service. One of the things that we're doing with the winter session, where we have 4 courses that are being offered in that period between the 2 semesters, the Center for Service has a tremendous number of opportunities for students to participate in. And so if you go to the winter session website, you'll actually see at the bottom a running slider with all these opportunities. And I was looking at them just a few minutes ago and thinking, great opportunities for our students to earn credit with no charge for a meaningful event, many of which can happen virtually, so they don't have to even be here. I believe that an event like a winter session, a time like that, there's a great opportunity to make it a meaningful experience. We kind of do that with spring break. we have opportunities in spring break that is more than just students going off on vacation. And so I think this winter session became a great experience, an opportunity for experiences like that as well. So just to put that also on your radar screen. I did want to provide just a little bit more update on the fall enrollment. And while we are down, it is interesting to see some of the differences in the places where we're not down in the ways that we might imagine. And the Early College Academy, as Dr. Kennedy mentioned. So last year, that Early College Academy enrollment totaled 1,196 students. This year, it's 1,143. So it's essentially, I mean, that's just a random variation for the most part. So continuing the support for what we're doing in the local areas. This is one of our best recruiting efforts as well, because once that student has a course with us, guess what? They know who we are. In the case of chemistry and some others, they're coming on campus to have a laboratory experience in one of the finest buildings we have on our campus, Agustin Remington. So those students, and I have talked to them before, who said, yeah, you know, I decided to come to Missouri Western. It wasn't on my radar screen, but I had a high school experience here, and Early College Academy was a great way for me to understand what the university was like. So I just want to reiterate that we're doing a lot of things well, and we just have to stay at it. It's tough. I know there's a lot of things going on in our world that make it easy to get distracted from what is our core mission, which is to recruit, retain, and help students succeed. And thanks to everyone who's doing that. And just a little factoid, I happen to like a lot of data kinds of factoids, but this one, on average, the undergraduate student is enrolled in just over 13 hours of credit, which is up from last year where it was 12.8. So again, we have fewer students, but they're enrolling in slightly more hours. And again, you think about, what does it take to graduate on time? Well, if you're not enrolled in at least 12 hours, you're not going to be able to do it. So that's another thing that we need to keep in mind, that our goal is to keep students as fully enrolled as possible, and that will help us as we help them to progress. So that's just an update about enrollment. I've got a lot of other things, and I just want to say this is an opportunity for me to say thanks to Dr. Angela Grant, who serves as our institutional research analyst. She has done this massive overhaul of all of our data that's on the institutional research website, including what is a bright and shiny new version of a fact sheet, which I think is awesome. So I would encourage you, if you have any interest in institutional data, they have dashboards that are interactive. You can look at, well, how many female students from Buchanan County do we have this semester? You can see that right there. And again, that's a tribute to the work that she has been doing since she took on that position. The other thing that I wanted to bring to attention with regard to student success, and I see Derek is on here, and so Derek has been the mastermind behind something we've been doing with a company called EdSites. And EdSites is essentially an AI chatbot. So if you don't know what that is, I encourage you to take a look, because it is, in many ways, the future of the way students expect to engage with us as an institution of higher learning, which seems odd because essentially they're engaging with something that is not a human being, but they are far more willing to talk to that chatbot than they are to us. And I haven't figured that out yet, but I know it's true. And so rather than saying it cannot be true, I have come to understand that 18-year-olds are happy to give anonymous, non-human things, information about themselves. And what is happening is that we now have all students in the system. It started out with just the first-year students being enrolled in EdSites, and we did that 2 years, and now the third year, all of our students. What this does is it gives us the ability to do two-way communication with students and engage them in new ways, which, as we're thinking about students who may be in some form of distress, whether it's financial distress, academic distress, they've got personal problems, they are much more likely to reach out in this way. And then we can direct them and connect them to the resources. And so I'll give you an example. Just Elaine Bryant was talking about, she got an email on Saturday at like 8 o'clock at night, and there was an alert that a student, it was about self-harm. The student had put something in the chat bot. The chat bot picked up on it and immediately fired off an email. Turns out the student didn't realize that human beings were actually going to see this, and it was a joke. And the student was very apologetic about it once they learned, because they got a contact then from student affairs and from Elaine's area. And I just thought that's very interesting that students just seem much more open to this. And it gives us another direct line of contact, that the resource is relatively inexpensive and it doesn't take a lot of time on the part of our staff. We have to think about more of those kinds of ways in which we can engage technology to support student success, where we can't hire 3 more people to do this. So how else might we meet those needs? So I just bring that to you as an example of things that I think we're moving forward in important ways to serve our students. And thank you to everyone. And Derek, thank you for the work you have been doing for a couple of years to help us make that EdSites chatbot really effective. So Max the Griffin talks to students and they love it. So, and with that, I will conclude my report and answer any questions.
Any questions for Dr. Davenport?
I have one, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So forgive my ignorance, but as I recall, a few years ago, Kale had done something interesting with early college academy numbers that confused a lot of people. And as I understand it, policies are made because of that. How are we avoiding using, the numbers are great, but how are we going to avoid that sort of like saying we are where we aren't necessarily yet, like was done before?
Can you share any more details about that, Aaron? Or, what do you mean about using the numbers? What do you mean?
I'm going based off of hearsay from a lot of different places over the course of the past year.
Okay. Well, one of the things I can tell you, because when I was in the vice provost's office, I took over the early college academy, and I've kept it because it's near and dear to my heart, and I have a lot of experience with this. So if I'm not really sure how the numbers may have been used before, but I can tell you one of our goals is to build a matriculation pipeline. We're at between 15 and 20% of the early college academy high school students who take our courses end up coming to our campus. And one of the things that I've done since I've taken this over, I'm working with Stacy Turner and now Julie Woods, and we're actually building some data so that we can look at some performance measures, because, when this initiative first started throughout the country, one of the main concerns that folks had, both parents and faculty and everybody else, was how do you have a high school student taking a college course? And that is essentially what the high school students are doing. They're taking college courses. So we're setting up performance matrix in terms of what kind of grades are they getting? Are they dropping out of classes? We're looking at everything from how many classes they're taking, what year they are, matriculation rates, as I've mentioned, and just looking at how these students are doing, because I think that's really important to know. If we have over 1,100 students taking courses with us, college level courses, we need to know how they're doing. So I'm not sure if that helps give you an answer, but I'm not sure how the numbers may have been manipulated before. So maybe it's not really, it's a little tricky for me to answer, but I can tell you that, the students pay $95 in tuition. So if you think about it, that's about, 3 early college academy students for one of our students. So, but it still is a very good revenue stream for the university.
Yeah, I think it's a great program. I think the concern was that early college academy numbers have been used to demonstrate increasing enrollment over the course of a long time.
Oh, those aren't in our enrollment figures that the provost, that we've been talking about. Those are separate.
That's why we're separating this out. So what you've typically heard in the past, and lots of institutions, this is not a Missouri Western thing. for total enrollment, which is head count. And so that's every warm body who's doing anything that is in any way credit bearing at the institution. And we never separated out what was early college academy versus undergraduate versus graduate, because we were growing our part-time enrollment, which included early college academy. So that's why I specifically want to speak to, well, this is where we're at. So that part of our enrollment is actually stable. But again, it's a different revenue stream. So I think that's important. And that's why I say, go take a look at the fact sheet, because you can see what the proportion of our students are degree seeking. That's the one that matters, along with those who are full-time. And as we began to look at this more than a year ago, it was clear that when you begin to look at full-time students, that was going the wrong direction over a 10-year period. One could say, well, we had a high point back in 2009, but the truth is that trend has remained consistent with a little bit of bump here or there, but by and large, we as an institution had lost over 22% of our enrollment. Likewise, 20% of our credit hours is how money gets generated. So Daryl could speak much more clearly to that, but maybe that helps you a
That
little
was
bit.
exactly my concern. Thank you.
Any other questions for Dr. Davenport?
I have one for Dr. Kennedy that I forgot to ask, if you don't mind. I wanted to know that on Monday, the St. Joseph City Council approved the new fire station. Is there plans for a police station addition to that sort of initiative?
As part of that relocation across the Mitchell, is that what you're talking about?
Colette? Yeah, yes.
Yes. No, and I'm sure Daryl, because Daryl Morrison has been more involved in those conversations, but there has not been, so I would let him kind of pipe
Yeah,
up to that.
I can talk about that. Was that Evan? Was that your question?
Yes, sir.
Sure. Okay. Let me respond to that. The cities and the university have been in long time negotiations before my arrival here about this, and the concept was to build a joint police fire station across Mitchell in the vacant lot there. What has happened on this is that the city had $2.9 million. We negotiated, Steve Johnston, myself, others, we negotiated. The original number they wanted to put in was $225,000, and it was not anything more than just give us $225,000 of a construction budget as part of a combined facility. Steve Johnson worked with City Council during the past year. They increased those numbers to $275,000. What has happened now is that the city has chosen to go to a design build project. And so with that in mind, what's happened is they don't have enough money to build us a building for the police station that was originally part of that. And so what it got down to was a shell building, basically. They would build us a shell, and then we would have to complete the building out of our own funds and things, okay? I spoke with Dr. Kennedy, spoke with the Board of Governors at our last meeting about potentially where this was headed. And so what we have made the decision to do is basically take our $275 and give them the ground lease over there. And so we will not get a building. That $275, I think we'd all agree that the police department needs a little bit more visibility on campus. We have broached the subject just slightly with Dr. Kennedy and Jill Volkmer and myself about a possible relocation, but where that would be and how that would work, we don't really know at this point in time. So that's kind of where we're at on the police fire facility over there.
Thank you.
Daryl, you're welcome to go forward with the rest of your report.
Okay, well, I have several things to discuss, and I'll try to do it as quickly as I can. Number one, let's talk about our current year budget situation. Dr. Kennedy alluded to the fact that we are some $4 million. We went into this year some $4 million down. I just finished the reports for the Board of Governors next week. We've made strides in that, cutting that overall number down by about $1.2 million just through various savings and things that we have not utilized so far. It's also helped that we have COVID funds that have helped us to replenish some of our revenues that were lost earlier in times being in last fiscal year, actually, that have helped us in this current fiscal year with those funds. So we picked up some funds there. So overall, we're progressing. We've still got a ways to go. We're not out of the woods, as they say, yet financially and by any stretch of the imagination. But we are moving forward, and I'm thankful for that. Our cash position, that's always been a question here, is stronger now than it was a year ago at this time. So we're sure all the things that we're attempting to do and trying to do appear to be, working, except for our enrollment numbers. They were, quite frankly, our freshman enrollment, down 20 some odd % in freshmen. And you've heard others say that'll be the gift that keeps giving, because as they go through the pipeline, those are just head count and numbers that we'll lose and lost revenue. So hopefully with a new enrollment person coming on, some different strategies potentially, I don't know what all that will entail, but there's an opportunity certainly there for us to gain additional students, look at our transfers. There are, different ways to approach this. So those things are on the table. I also want to touch about any questions on the budget overall at this time before I move to the next topic.
I don't think so.
Okay, the next topic I wanted to discuss with you, I wanted to talk about COVID just a little bit more. COVID-19 CARES Act funding. We received $3.9 million almost from the federal government. Of course, $1.8 million of that went to our students last spring. We used some of it over the summer months for PPE and things like that. We also have secured almost $2.7 million from the state through Governor Parson. And we're using a lot of those funds and some of our federal funds to enhance some of the infrastructure on campus. We're looking at air handler units. We had a board poll last week where the board approved us to expend almost $1.7 million to fix some of the air handlers, to get the right ventilations going in there so we can get the right filtering and provide a safer work environment and better quality air for our employees on campus. So that's one of the things we're doing. We've also got bottle fillers that we're putting on in academic buildings that should be happening in the next few weeks, getting that taken care of. So there's a lot of things like that that we are utilizing our CARES Act money for, while at the same time making sure that we have all the PPE that is needed across campus and for the safety of our students and our employees. The next issue that I want to talk to you about deals with insurance. I've had preliminary conversations with several groups on campus. There is, I've met with Jean and Andrea privately. We've talked probably 3 or 4 times about the changes that are coming forth from our healthcare side of things. What is precipitating our healthcare changes, quite simply, is our usage. We are 21% up in utilization this year, almost 22% up in utilization this year on our healthcare. We have 31 claims totaling that are over $30,000. That them alone are $2.2 million of our expenditures. The Blue Cross Blue Shield renewal came back to us at just under $780,000 for the university. We have a $4 million budget deficit, folks. And so $780,000 is not something that we can sustain and pay for. So we began to look at different options and what could we do. We have settled on a couple of different things, okay? None of these are pleasing, okay? But in order to maintain a good quality healthcare plan, this is the direction that we are headed. Number one, we are eliminating 2 of our 4 options for health insurance. The buy-up PPO and the HMO will be going away. We will have 2 plans. We will have a qualified high deductible plan and the regular PPO plan. And that will be it. Okay, no more four different plans. The bad news on this is that by doing that, we are saving some money, but we're going to have to restructure contributions. The university cannot pick up those type of funds. I know this has been discussed for many years on this campus. How long will employees get free health insurance? That's the bottom line. And it ends this coming year. It ends in January, quite honestly. We've negotiated, we've tried to get as low as we can on some options and restructuring some things, but there's just no way to avoid it. The other thing that we've done with this is we have restructured some of the rate schedules. We have insurance plans out there and contribution rates that are unsustainable and are not family or employee friendly in many cases, because some of our plans to get your family on the insurance plan here, as an employee, it costs you $1,200 a month. We lose a lot of faculty, we lose a lot of staff because of those outrageous healthcare cost rates in the recruitment cycle. So therefore, we restructured some of those things. The initial thing was to also restructure the plan designs on the PPO and the qualified high deductible plan. But in discussing this with, and that was what was recommended to us by our third party administrator. But in discussing this with Gene and Andrea, we backed off of that from the university perspective. And and I looked for different ways to do this. One of the things that we did was we will be changing our dental plan to a different provider, but in so doing, we are kind of bundling, and we picked up some savings that would offset and not force us to make that change as well. Okay. I know this is a lot of information, and I'm trying to summarize it and be respectful of everyone's time. There's a lot more that will be coming out about this, but I did meet with your leadership. I've also met with many of the faculty Senate leadership, and there's a newly formed budget committee that I'm working very closely with about this, shared this information. We discussed it, things like that, but it's just a bad time. and I don't know what else to do about it. And that's the honest truth on that. Questions?
Daryl, do you expect, will it be towards the end of the month when the health insurance information will go out to employees? And then when the meetings will be held?
Yeah, the information will come out as soon as the board approves things, okay? I don't want to send it out ahead of the board meeting because I want to discuss with them and make sure they understand exactly what we're dealing with and what we're proposing to do here and get their approval on things. We already have open enrollment dates established. They will be November 9th through the 20th. But there will be a lot of communication coming out following the board meeting. I would anticipate the board meeting's the 22nd. I'd like to push some of the information out prior to that, just so everybody can begin to understand what's coming down with the rates and things like that. You know, it's a change. It's a change. You know, for some people, it'll be great. For some people, not so much. It just depends on where you're at in this. You know, but I would like to say publicly to you guys have some strong leadership in Andrea and Gene, because they twisted my arm a lot on this and tried to get me to back off the plan designs because you know, I was kind of like the bologna in the sandwich between the third party who was saying, you need to do this for the betterment of your plan. And Andrea said, this is too much, and this is too much change, too much change, too much change. And so in visiting with Dr. Kennedy, she agreed with me to listen. And that's what you know, a university is about, is to listen to each other and the shared governance model and things like that. So I'm very appreciative.
And we are appreciative of the opportunity to have open dialogue with that. I would like to publicly state that I had sleepless nights over this. Daryl, I can't imagine you and everyone else what the day-to-day is like. And so thank you for allowing us to have a voice. And we're thankful for a better result than what it could have been.
And I'll say this to this body, because it seems like, and Evan knows this, he serves on the additional budget committee with some other people, but you know, it seems like ever since I came to this campus and we found out what type of situation we're in, we've been taking. It just seems that way. I know it's not necessarily that way, but that's the way it seems sometimes. And so I really think we've got the best that we can get given the situation we have on our insurance and our benefits. You know, our dental's still free, our life is still free, life insurance is still free, our vision is still free. So we have all those things that we're still providing for you, but it's just difficult times. It's just difficult times.
Any questions for Daryl?
Unless there are other things, questions or comments, that concludes my report.
Daryl, I have a question for you. As we, as staff, are experiencing these changes, are we planning on having any targeted counseling for those who are affected by the plan changes?
Yes, we will have. We'll have some individual things when we do open enrollment. We'll try to do some things like that, but we're trying to get some informational sessions set up right now so that we can share this information, and hopefully, you know, people can sling arrows and do all those sorts of things as we do it. But you know, it is kind of what it is, and so I'm not hiding behind anything. I want to stand out there and answer as many questions, but there are individual needs, and people will need individual counseling because everybody's situation is different. And so I want to make sure that everybody gets on the right plan that is what they need and and is informed. And so, yes, we will be having those. And Sarah's working on that in HR right now. Of course, Nikki left us last week for another opportunity. So we're a little behind down there, but we're doing what we can, and they're working hard. So, but to answer your question, yes, we'll be having some of those meetings.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Daryl? Well, we thank the three of you so much for your time to give to us. I know this was an hour out of your very busy schedules with very important things to do. So thank you kindly for your time and efforts and everything. So
Always. Andrea, I always want to say this. I appreciate coming to this body and speaking to them. And even though when it's not good news, knowing that we're all in together, I appreciate what you guys do, and we couldn't do it without you. So I appreciate it. Okay. This university's not the same unless you're working hard like you are, and it's much appreciated by many of us.
thank you very much, administration. Have a good rest of your day. All right, guys, we will turn over our meeting here. Do we have a motion to approve the September minutes?
I'd like the motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second it.
Evan has motioned, Jean has seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 It's the first time we've actually had to do this with the Zoom, trying to figure out the best way. I know we can raise hands and whatnot. This may be one of the only things we've got to vote on today, so I think we're good there. Motion passes. We will turn it over to committee reports. So salary and fringe.
Hey guys, how are you today? I just wanted to say some of the stuff that we did talk about in salary and fringe kind of got off of salary and fringe. So today was very exciting for me listening to Elizabeth sound so positive with staff, because that was one of the things we had discussed, is feeling more like a family again. And, you know, and in the past that we've heard, you know, if you don't like it, find another job somewhere else, or you guys have a lot of benefits. You guys are so lucky that you have the benefits. But for her to say, wait a minute, I'm not saying any of that. We're giving you an extra day at Thanksgiving because we can't give you a raise, was very much some of the stuff we did discuss in salary and fringe. So I think that's great. There was I became the chair because there was somebody else that was the chair and decided to back out of it. So that's why you have me, and I'll be doing the committee reports. I think one of the things that the committee talked about as well was that if there is any discussion about salary or fringe at the administration level, that this committee, which is why it was formed, would like to be at the table at those conversations. So there is several people that would have feedback from, you know, all different backgrounds and different years of being at Missouri Western. So there'd be a little bit more of a discussion about what would help everybody. There was one question that they wanted to, and maybe this is something you can talk about or ask Andrea, is that the committee on behalf of the staff the staff would like to know if there's possibly if there is any consideration or possibility of a cost of living raise in 2021, 2022. Obviously, we know it's not this year. So that might be something, if you wouldn't mind discussing in one of your meetings. Or we could have a meeting with him. It's entirely up to you. Another thing that was discussed was request for administration to look into the tuition reduction to include fees. There are so many fees at this point that it's pretty much up there with tuition. So that might be something to look into to help sell, you know, the school to new employees and to new faculty. Also maybe look into a merit-based performance back when we go back to doing evaluations, but I'm pretty sure that someone I thought had told me that we couldn't do merit-based anymore. So that might be something we look into, or I can look into as well. I've contacted the faculty fringe committee, and we're going to get together just so we can be on the same page with each other. I talked to her, and I'm just going to have a quick conversation, not a quick conversation, but a conversation with her next Wednesday, and then possibly try to get their committee to meet with our committee. And same thing with salary. And see if we can all get together and just get on the same page. And that's all I have.
I think that's a great idea. We will have everybody give their report, and then we'll approve of the chairs at the end, if that works for everybody. I will say, and I know this is public, Jean and I tried to get extra seats at the table in the health insurance discussion. So I just want to publicly state that to the staff. It was not something we were comfortable taking on, just the two of us. And the request was made to involve our salary and fringe committee. And it did not go forward with that. So we will continue to do what we can to get the seats at the table. That's an important conversation. So I want to apologize. It was not an oversight on our part. So I just want to make that.
We have no doubt. I'm sure that you, everybody has 100% faith in you, that you would have our best interest at heart. And we appreciate you doing that.
Thankful I'm not the bologna. I mean, I wasn't expecting that. Be the bread, not the bologna. So thank you, salary and fringe. I think those are all excellent points that we need to keep on the forefront throughout the year. Thanks, Kathy.
You're welcome.
Constitution and bylaws.
For Constitution and bylaws, we met. I will be chair again.
Thank you,
if it
Amber.
approves. And then we talked about in the Constitution, the membership part. It was brought up to me last year that it might need to change based on how staff are categorized now. So we're all kind of looking into that and figuring it out. And from there, we're just going to kind of look over the Constitution and bylaws and watch for any changes that we need to make and any amendments that need to go through.
Great, thank you. Welcoming? Who's the chair of that, Jean? Do you know?
Lisa May.
I didn't know that. I was say we didn't meet for
No,
welcoming.
no.
Okay,
we
I was like,
haven't
oh no.
I wasn't aware. We've not met yet.
Lisa, are you willing to chair? Does that one need to stay
Sure.
as are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay, I feel like I'm back to her in a quarter. I'm sorry, Lisa. Thank you. Election.
Yes, I am the chair of the election committee. We met on September 29th in the library meeting room. Myself, Jake Kelly, Debbie Vaughn, and Barb Harris were there. Renee couldn't attend. Introduced ourselves. I hadn't met anyone on the committee yet. We talked about the election process. Apparently, last year, or there was some issues with voting where, let's see, where they were sending out one single link to every email address, and duplicate voting was allowed. So luckily, they've got that fixed. Jake is got his hands in that, and that will be fixed by sending out a individualized links to all members. So look forward to that when election time comes around. We looked at the election timeline next spring and got that straightened out. We all agreed to meet virtually in the future and keep an eye on election needs. We do have a vacancy for an exempt position senator that we will be meeting next week to find a replacement. We'll be appointing a replacement for that. So,
And it must be exempt, is that correct?
An exempt,
An
yeah,
exempt
exempt
position is
position.
now open, so,
that's
okay.
right.
Thank you. Professional development.
Okay, So we had an extremely productive first meeting. That was me, Debbie Chrysler, Susan Garrison, Dr. Angela Grant, and Justin Ray. We couched our considerations in 3 different areas. We wanted to talk about overall customer service, the onboarding process, and development and advancement within staff members. We recognize that we're not going to quite have the same funds, which mean we're not going to be able to do the same kind of petition for the $200 to go to professional development because of just the situation we're in. So we kind of tweaked our charges a little bit and our focus on what we plan to do, because we can't just, we can't host picnics. We can't do those morale boosting things. We can't even send people to a conference. So what are we going to do with this committee? So we identified those 3 areas. Regarding customer service, we said that we want to make sure that everybody is consistent with their customer service practices. So we are going to try and figure out a way to increase customer service training and the knowledge base of campus, and who knows where what is, and how to direct people properly to there, and how to be kind and nice when you're doing that. We also talked about kind of gearing everybody's job to speak to the core values of the university, that we've kind of lost our way regarding our mission. What is it that we do? What function do we fill in the community? And how are we exemplifying those virtues? So we're going to talk to Staff Senate E-Board, that's you guys, to talk about the feedback button that we're going to get to in a little bit. Regarding onboarding, we are in talks with HR about how disjointed our onboarding process can seem to be. Everybody's first week or everybody's first day seems to be very confusing and different across the board. We have a sheet we have to fill out, and it usually goes like, hey, did you fill out your sheet yet? Yeah, okay, go do your job. So with the exception of that piece of paper for our onboarding process, we're discussing developing a Canvas course to where everybody who is hired by the university is going to have a uniform process that they go through to make sure that they tick those boxes and know the breadth of Missouri Western's resources and how to get everybody there, so that at least everybody's on the same page. So if somebody walks into Res Life and is like, hey, what do I do about financial aid? They know exactly who to talk to and where to send them, things of that nature. And then regarding development and job placement, we recognize that the first come, first serve petition, the way of petitioning for funds for professional development is not equitable. We don't necessarily have a way of fixing that problem, but we have identified that that is not a model that we're confident in using anymore. So we will work on probably changing that over time. So we'll probably talk to you guys in Constitution about what we think those should be, and we'll present it to the body, our recommendations. In addition to the onboarding Canvas course, we're going to provide that course to staff that already exists. We're going to work closely with the Center for Teaching and Learning as well to make sure that we're all speaking the same language. And so sort of a broader thing that we were talking about is the general morale and how people feel about doing better personally in their job and in their careers. How are we going to facilitate as a professional development committee, making sure that everybody's engaged with this culture of self-improvement and improvement within their careers? So we're going to be speaking with the administration about how we can kind of address those concerns about paying tuition and fees for staff members, and kind of getting an easier way for us to have access to our own educational resources to bolster our own experiences. And then talking about workforce development and kind of extending those certifications that we're offering through the School of Business to staff and faculty. To basically kind of, my argument was this, and this isn't necessarily where the committee came to, but my argument was, hey, if we're hiring out for these positions and we have perfectly qualified people on campus who just need a certification to be technically qualified for that job, we should certainly be training those people to try and fill those positions while still being fair to external candidates, was kind of my argument. So how can we facilitate everybody's individual growth to continue along their path within the university itself? We discussed salary compression and how everybody is now working more for less, and how that is unacceptable, and how we do not endorse the continuation of that, and how do we take professional development to sort of demonstrate our value, and hey, these are all the things we're doing, these are all the things we're qualified in doing. If you're having me do these things, I need to be in a different position with just compensation, right? That as everybody, more and more sort of like tier 2 leadership are on the way out. A lot of us have all had to step up and that is unfair. And that is the extent of what we talked about in that hour. Any questions?
You did all that in an hour?
We did that, dude. These guys were amazing. I tell you, that's why I named them all at the beginning, because we banged it out within like literally 57 minutes. It was pretty impressive.
Who's the chair of your committee?
It's me.
Okay. That's what I thought, but I wanted to double check.
Great. We look forward to some updates on that. And you're also going to work with HR on a lot of the pieces
Yes,
with
but
the,
like Daryl said, you know, they're
Right.
down staff right now, so there's
Right.
not a whole lot that we can do.
Right.
But we'll be patient with that, and make sure that
Sure.
we get it rolled out through the proper channels when that time comes.
perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Special events.
Yes, that's me. I'll be the chair. We have met several times. We've been meeting twice a month. Wow, exciting. We're jazzed. I feel very much like the office, the party planning committee. So I have some updates. We obviously can't be holding retreats and spending a bunch of money and congregating in person. But what our committee has decided to do is to kind of focus on what we've all kind of talked about, that morale and what is the goal of the retreats, what's the purpose. And I think it's that community building, that morale boosting, that remembering like why you choose to work here, because the people are awesome, Griffin family. So we're working on, we have a ton of ideas. Not all of those can happen immediately, but I do have some updates on what we're kind of thinking. So October, we were going to try and plan this sort of, but the Homecoming Spirit Week has already done this. So there's typically office decorating in Homecoming Week, and there's some offices that will do it in Halloween. This year, Homecoming Week is Spirit Week. It's Halloween themed. So decorate your office, come together, even if it's something small, or if you just want to decorate the front desk, do that, sign up for it. It's a way to kind of remember some of the fun that we get to have. That's October 20th through the 24th, maybe. There's an email that just went out, but do that. That's something we think is a good morale booster. In November, Kendi and Steve are going to come up with an awesome holiday themed craft, and we'll offer an opportunity for people who want to have a list of the materials. They'll do a Zoom session you can watch during lunch if you'd like, and we can all kind of do that craft together. That's obviously not for everybody, but kind of an opportunity to not focus on the work stuff, but focus on just some laid back stuff. And then we are looking at trying to do a form of a virtual retreat, kind of take emphasis from the trivia that was done last year and have prizes for a fun trivia that we can all do together. I'm thinking a door decorating contest. Wow, how exciting. Think of your best things. I'm trying to envision how I can make the Christmas vacation on my door with like the house with the lights. We'll see. Don't steal my idea. But we're looking at that, and we're looking at trying to do kind of a smaller version of the silent auction, and potentially collaborating with the Advantage Committee to have that, the proceeds of that go back to our Griffin family. Again, kind of that morale booster that we're in this together. It's a hard year. I think that's definitely something everyone's been talking about. So we're just trying to bring some fun and bring some community back.
I appreciate the creativity. I've served on that committee in the past, and there's such good out of that. And not being able to have the retreat, you very easily could have said, well, we're hands off, we're not going to do anything, but you guys are go-getters. So thank you. I think that's a terrific start
We're
without
very excited.
without having to spend money. We're all kind of, I think, having to search for those little nooks and crannies of where can we find morale boosters. I know the health insurance information is just a dagger. The lack of raises is a deeper dagger. We've got to find ways to look for the silver linings. And so I know these seem small, they may not be for everybody, but thank you for your efforts to try to come up with something and be creative. So great work. And Advantage, I don't think Susan.
I have a report for her.
Okay, Amber's
Oh,
going to report
Amber's
out. Wonderful.
Susan is the chair. And then their report is Adopt a Griffin application deadline will be November 10th. So Staff Association Advantage Committee wants to ensure a great holiday season for fellow Griffin employees this year. So if you or a Griffin you know could use some help this holiday season, you can fill out the online application at griff.vn/adoptagriff. And those are due by 4:30 p.m. on Tuesday, November 10th. All of those applications will be assigned a number so that they will be kept completely anonymous. And then the committee will meet during November to go over the application. Donations will be collected until December 13th, and then the families will receive the donations between December 18th and 20th. And if you have any questions, you can contact Susan Garrison.
Thank you. All
I
right,
also have her on chat, so if anyone has questions for her, we can ask them right away.
making sure nobody had a question. Okay. Thank you for everyone for the committee reports. Thank you to the chairs that are willing to serve in those roles. Could I have a motion to approve the chairs?
Motion to approve.
By
I
Kathy,
second.
second by Amber. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Still trying to figure out how we make this work officially. All right. Thank you. Motion, any approved? Or sorry, any opposed? All right, motion passes.
Andrea. It's Kathy.
Yes, go ahead.
Real quick, when I said something about the merit-based raise and that I didn't think we could do it, and then I did get confirmation back from a few people saying that several years ago it came down from the state that we could not do merit-based raises.
I'll add that to my notes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
My report, I will try to keep it short here. I want to start out by giving an explanation of the live stream of the meeting. So last month we had a Zoom link for everyone, but that we knew we could not continue with that. That was a one-time only as we were trying to figure out the best way to move forward with our meeting format. Dr. Kennedy does not want staff association meetings to turn into town halls. And there was concern that if everyone had a Zoom link, that could happen through no one's fault. And so the discussion was had, we would not continue with everyone having Zoom link. The only ones that would have the Zoom link were the senators. So we knew that's how it would be. In discussions with IMC, the easiest solution was just to live stream through a Facebook page. The e-board had kicked around the idea of creating a Facebook page. Thank you, Evan. He got that created. If you're on Facebook, please go follow the page, Missouri Western State University Staff Association. It's very easy to find. We're gaining membership. But it was really easy to open up Zoom and just stream live from Facebook. That way it was captured. We didn't have to worry about recording. There was less opportunity for technical glitches. But we heard you, staff. We heard you. You are not pleased with that decision. And so we backtracked and will now use a YouTube. Thank you to Kevin and Tom for vamping today and getting that set up for us. We will live stream through YouTube just like we are today. So our setup today will be how we will move forward. Senators will have Zoom. All others can join through YouTube. The highest number, I think we've had up to 52. So thank you to those 52 of you that are watching. 51, I'm one. Sorry, I've got it here so I can watch those numbers. So very pleased with the engagement today. In the future, they will turn on the chat feature in YouTube. Evan right now is manning the Google Chat. It is automatically default to turn the chat off in YouTube, but Kevin will turn it on for our meeting. So if you want to connect or ask a question, you can do it that way. We hope everyone is satisfied with that. We know there is no good way to do this. And quite truthfully, no good deed goes unpunished, just when we thought we had it all figured out. So those of you that voiced your opinion, thank you. That's what you need to do. We are here to serve everyone, and we need to make sure that everyone has an opportunity. So if you have questions about that, please reach out to an e-board member, and we're happy to continue the conversation. But this seems to be working well. This seems to be working better than it did last month. So hopefully everyone is in agreement with that. Really, my updates from our meeting with Dr. Kennedy, the e-board as a group is going to meet with her. I think it's just richer conversation. It's more robust, brings more ideas to the table. So the four of us did meet with her on Monday. We will always meet the Monday before our staff association meeting. She really provided the updates about most everything that we discussed. The other thing, the United Way campaign will be kicking off. You'll probably get an email next week. They are excited that Missouri Western is willing to partner again. Eric Kramer and I are chairing that. per request from Dr. Kennedy. So we're working with United Way, we're working with Kent Hire to get an email drafted that will go out to employees. If you are so inclined to contribute to that, it's a wonderful cause. The United Way is working on some videos that will go out. They are just really, really pleased that we are continuing to partner alongside of them. I know across the board, everyone's givings from their other corporate sponsors are going down because of the obvious state of finances for many other businesses as well. So if you're inclined to give, thank you. If you're one that has done that in the past, thank you. If you're not able to do that anymore, we certainly understand. In the past, they've set a campaign goal. They're not going to do that this year. They are just thankful for any funding that they can get. A few other things. If you have questions or concerns, we really, really want you to voice those. And we want you to feel like you have a way to do that. And it's been like that in the past as well. I just really want to reiterate that please reach out to your senator that represents you. Reach out to a different senator, a board member. Let us know what we need to be talking about. Evan brought it up earlier. It is going to happen before our next meeting. We will get a button on the website with some feedback. Please don't kill us with the meeting situation. We heard you. We got it fixed. We don't want it to turn into a gripe button. We've been joking that it could be named the Griffin gripe. I'm just going to say that for some humor. We really want it to be a means for you to share what's on your mind. And please be constructive with it, in that if you've got solutions to go along with the problems, please pose them and we will continue those conversations. We feel very comfortable talking with Dr. Kennedy, bringing things to the table that maybe, aren't easy things to talk about. I think we feel comfortable as a group. The same thing with Daryl. Jean and I have learned firsthand, but we feel compelled to make sure that information gets to them, and they seem to be very open. We may not always like the answer that we get, but at least we know we've tried. So please feel like you can share that information. In a positive, we have a staff association member that reached out that is a quilter and wants to make a t-shirt quilt of Missouri Western t-shirts to maybe auction off, Melissa, whenever we might have a silent auction opportunity in the future. So if you have any t-shirts from your area, you have one to spare, please get it to an e-board member and we will pass it on to that person. We'll also get a post made on our Facebook page. Maybe that'll be our first or our next post. But what a really neat thing that this individual was willing to do and spends their time doing this. What a cool hobby and a great way to give back. So thank you to that. I'm going to turn it over to Jean for First Vice President's report.
All right, thank you. So I just have a couple of things. The first is just the budget report, and there are no expenses. So we're still sitting at the $4,000. So we also haven't had any money taken back from our budget. So that's good news. The other update is yesterday I attended the GAC meeting. That's something that both Andrea and I are supposed to attend. Andrea wasn't able to make it, but I attended. That was the first GAC meeting that I had ever attended. So I pretty much felt out of my element. But there were 3 things on the agenda. The first one was talking about the change in graduate faculty workload policy. Completely over my head. I'm not overly familiar with academics, so I was just kind of like listening to the feedback and just being as confused as I could be. The other was there was a proposal for information only that was brought forward, and that was basically just adding some classes back in that had been removed, and they didn't realize the impact that would have on students that were wanting to teach secondary English, I believe. The last thing that they talked about, I felt a little bit more comfortable. They were talking about the university committees that are actually in the policy guide. So currently there are 12 institutional committees that they're wanting to kind of revisit, take a look to see if they're even still relevant. Some of them may actually just kind of be dead in the water. But the bottom line is that they want these to be permanent standing committees. They want to have the broad voice of campus included in these. But more importantly, they really want to define what is an institutional committee as far as, you know, the purpose, the duration, the appointments, and things of that nature. They also want to include university counsel in that whenever that position has been filled to get the legal background on there. But right now, they're just kind of moving forward, open to thoughts. There's no definitive timeline set. This isn't anything that has any pressing urgency, just something to keep in the back of our mind. And then also, just to kind of get an idea of what committees are on campus that may be included in that may not be, just so we have a bigger picture of what is on our campus. And that was it.
Thank you again for attending that and hanging so low. Dr. Lindstedt, do you have anything to report from a faculty liaison report? Okay, very good. Any other business or discussion? Anyone either here or in Zoom wants to bring up? I know we're running long. Appreciate you guys hanging with us. A lot of administrative updates today, but I think it was good information for everybody to be aware of.
So Kathy, I've gotten from a lot of people the concern about the institutional justice aspect of the ad hoc budget committee. So when Andrea was saying, yes, we did our best to make sure that as many people that were supposed to be in that conversation were, she's not wrong. Everybody pretty much really pushed to get as many voices, as many official voices in that room as possible, because we are afraid that people are going to be concerned about being in the room where it happens or not being there. So that is a very valid concern and something that we all more or less share to some degree. So basically, I'm just telling you, I share your concern, and we're going to do our best to kind of come to some, mutual agreement as to where is the accountability and how do we make sure that it's fair and accessible to everybody.
I appreciate that. And I have no doubt that you guys push to have that done. No doubt in my mind.
I completely understand. It's like, why have a salary and fringe committee if you have no means of using your voice?
And that was the point in our committee that we had discussed, is that, I mean, there's some very strong opinions and again, a plethora of knowledge in years at Missouri Western and what we've done or what's needed. And, we should utilize that as much as possible.
I agree. And I can see how that's frustrating. So I think that the charge is more or less that I think, honestly, if speaking frankly, I think Daryl wants to be able to speak to somebody without immediately his idea being written down as a policy decision, right? And I think that sort of apprehension is, he kind of just wants people in the room that he's comfortable with. I agree that that's not necessarily institutionally just, that's a problem, and that there's kind of a duality there. We're dealing with two different things. We need Daryl to be effective, and we need him to be good at his job, and we need him to feel safe to where he can come up with creative ideas. But we also need another component there to where whoever's in his ear is being held accountable. So I'm 100% there on that, and we'll just have to get creative as to how we can figure that out together. Or put our thumb down and say, no, these committees exist, if we maybe even just change the term of it to being from a committee to a think tank, and then we can kind of reimagine what that mission looks like. But again, that's not my decision to make. So I guess my charge is, as long as this committee exists, as long as it's something they want, I'm going to do my best to be representative and transparent to this body so that this body can hold me accountable when I'm on that committee. But in regards to the institutional justice part of it, I'm 100% on board with those notions for what that's worth.
Yeah, it's a tough spot. Thank you for understanding, and we'll keep battling. We'll keep battling. Other discussion or anything else? All right. Do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
A motion to adjourn the meeting.
Amber motions. I have a second.
Someone said.
Somebody was on Zoom, but I saw
That's
Melissa.
me, Jessica, I get the second.
Seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Thank you guys so much for your time. We'll see you next month. Don't hesitate to reach out if you need anything. Thanks.
Thank you.
I was trying to tell you, the chat was just Kathy saying that's gonna be a big quilt.
Oh, okay.
But I didn't want to yell it and have it knock over everybody. I was like, this is a serious conversation. Please, yes. No, we haven't met, I don't think. Oh, absolutely. That picture is really, really old. I am. It was just kind of, I was late and a lot of people